Great but late!
What's up, Slackers? Lab Pete and Bess here for another episode of Great But Late, the show where we complete and review some of history's greatest games that we've never played from a modern perspective. For episode 2, I'm going to be taking a look at Naughty Dog's Uncharted series. If you're anything like me, despite spending my formative years as a PlayStation evangelist before eventually gravitating to a more utilitarian approach to gaming, I was forced into Microsoft's camp with the Xbox 360 thanks to its low price and my parents' refusal to pay for a PS3 at launch. Not to mention the fact that most of my friends had already made the jump for the same reason. As a result, I spent the better part of the 7th console generation longingly looking across the fence at Sony's ever-expanding catalog of first and second party offerings, and especially at the new IP from developers I had grown up with: Insomniac, Sucker Punch, and of course, Naughty Dog. After almost a decade of waiting, I was finally able to complete the developer's iconic trilogy this year by way of the Nathan Drake collection, and all I can say is it lived up to the hype. In case you don't know the setup to Uncharted, the series follows the adventures of charismatic treasure hunter Nathan Drake, along with a handful of allies and companions. Most notably his mentor and surrogate father, Victor Sully Sullivan, and primary love interest, Elena Fisher, a journalist who meets Nate and Sully during the first Uncharted after her show financed their journey. There are other reoccurring characters introduced in Uncharted 2 and 3, like Nate's friends Chloe and Cutter, but generally speaking, the emotional core of the story are Nate's relationships with Sully and Elena. Gameplay is generally broken up into 3 sections. 3D platforming sections that see Nate perform feats of parkour like jumping, climbing, hanging from ledges, and swinging from ropes. Combat sections with a focus on cover-based shooting, where players can switch between using a sidearm or a larger gun like an automatic rifle, shotgun, or a heavy artillery weapon like a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle. You'll also have access to a handful of grenades in case your back's up against the wall. Weapons are disposable and are either found around the map or taken from the legions of soldiers that Nate will inevitably mow down. And finally, puzzle sections that, unfortunately, are generally little more than gatekeepers to the next story beat. They range from being so easy that they don't require much thought beyond taking a look at Nate's journal and following some basic directions, to being so infuriatingly hard to follow that you'll all but certainly get frustrated enough to look for clues from the game or online the first time around. There's no character upgrade system, meaning you'll never be spending your time navigating through menus or choosing a loadout. Use whatever guns are available at the moment, and Nate's personal toolset is 100% available from the start of each game. There are incremental developments to the system between each game in the series, but even the first Uncharted feels polished by today's standards. As a general rule, I try not to make judgments about one franchise based on the sins of another, but after playing Uncharted for even a few minutes, I was floored that Assassin's Creed has been allowed to phone it in for so long. I'll go out on a limb and say that pound for pound, Uncharted does every single thing Assassin's Creed tries to do from a gameplay perspective better. The platforming is tighter and more inventive, combat is nearly identical but flows much better thanks to a focus on gunplay, and even Uncharted's sparse use of stealth sections are better than Assassin's Creed's downright boring follow-the-leader style stealth missions. Gameplay mechanics aside, even after almost a decade following the first game in the series, Naughty Dog's pulp epic remains a shining example of presentation in games. The environments are beautiful and memorable, the music is incredible, the cast performances are some of the finest in gaming's history, and the action set pieces feel more like a Hollywood blockbuster than a gameplay sequence about shooting and platforming. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these people banging the drum that games should try to be more like movies or that a cinematic experience is even what I want out of a game most of the time. But what I think makes a playthrough of the Uncharted series even more special in 2016, at least for me, was that the games were truly a breath of fresh air. The last few years of AAA games have given me very real open world fatigue, and when I finally sat down to kick off my playthrough of the first Uncharted, I was reminded of how fantastic a linear, narrative-driven game can be without any sort of player agency, or that just because a game has a focus on its narrative means that it has to sacrifice things like action, combat, or set pieces. Instead of being bombarded with choices, inane side quests, and massive sprawling maps with unending nooks and crannies, Naughty Dog told me the story they wanted to tell, and I'll be damned if I didn't enjoy it more because they set the pace for me. Not every game needs to have an open world, not every game needs branching narratives. Uncharted reminded me how much I missed exploring a world with restrictions, and how fulfilling it is to follow a single engaging plot thread to its natural conclusion. I'd be remiss to only focus on what makes the series great without lobbing a few criticisms at Sony's Golden Boy. I'll be the first to admit that the series suffers from the same issue that plagues the majority of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that Naughty Dog never quite managed to produce a villain that was able to match Nate in skill or charisma. But the rest of what Uncharted brings to the table is so damn good, and the ride there is so much fun that you straight up don't care. It was never about the villain. It was never even really about finding El Goddamn Dorado or whatever other world-ending trinket Nate and company was chasing down. It was about the impossible parkour, the set pieces and exotic locales, the gunfights, the puzzles, and solving the supernatural mystery. It's about Nate and Sully's father-son relationship. It was about Nate's friendships with Chloe and Cutter. It was about Nate and Elena falling in love. Uncharted absolutely believes in the idea that the journey is the destination, and it's often better for it. Simply put, even in 2016, the Uncharted series is a story about human relationships and a sense of adventure that is unrivaled by any of its peers. If you've been unlucky enough to miss out on one of gaming's greatest epics, there's never been a better time to play them thanks to the Nathan Drake collection, and with Uncharted 4 in stores this week. At $60 for the whole trilogy, it's easily one of the best ways to spend your time on the PlayStation 4. Alright guys, so that wraps it up for episode 2 of Great But Late. If you guys like this video, please like it, consider sharing it with a friend, and subscribe to Slack and Slash's YouTube channel for more videos like this one. If you have an idea for what game you'd like to see us cover on the next episode of Great But Late, let us know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.